Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and today we've got something pretty special hiding underneath that t-shirt. Can you guess what it is yet? Okay, so if you're into your retro stuff, then this is going to be a real treat. This is something which I actually previously owned back in the day. Now, I'm not entirely sure of the exact year, but I'm thinking it was around the 2003, 2004, maybe 2005 mark. Again, I'm not entirely sure, but let's show you what we've got. You can check out for yourself. Now, first of all, what do you think is hiding behind the t-shirt? Is it going to be another balding, slightly old, middle-aged, balding, fat man? No, it's not. It's going to be a PC. So, let's do the reveal. And there you go. One of the first, I don't think it was the first, but I think it's one of the first PC DIY acrylic cases in ATX style. Now this, from what I can tell, and from when I owned one previously, I'm estimating around the 2004 mark for this particular chassis. Now there's various different manufacturers who've made them. Now I believe from my research, this one is the Sunbeam AC-T. Now again, I could be wrong. It's very difficult to find anything from that kind of era. Searching on the internet now, it seems to be just lost. You can't find it anywhere. I guess a lot of review websites and things like that have gone down and they've not been archived and what have you. So actually trying to find out what this is, the exact manufacturer, etc., or who imported it into the UK is actually quite difficult to find out. Now this, I did own one of these many years ago. I believe I had a Athlon XP chip set up in there, so that gives you some idea of the time scale. Mine was actually in slightly worse condition than this one, even though this is now 2018. Now, as you can see, some of the panels are actually missing. So we're missing some of the drive covers at the front there, and also the floppy drive bay covers. And I'm not entirely sure, but I think there was originally another bracket which went actually inside here for the 3.5-inch drives. I don't remember seeing the drives actually mounted like that. I'm pretty sure they were on either extended screws or something, or there was another kind of mounting mechanism in there. But what do you think? This was, back in the day, would have been the kind of the start of when we took PCs a little bit more seriously when it came to style, finesse, builds, cable management, all those kinds of things. So I'm kind of excited to get this. I'm going to try and restore it. I'm not sure what I'm going to restore it to. I'm thinking it's 2018, 2019. Really, we should be having some RGB in there. And I think RGB with the acrylic would look absolutely amazing. So maybe that is something we can look at. Again, I'm not entirely sure. I've only just got it today. The options are limitless at the moment. It would be quite nice just to have a really retro system, maybe running an operating system of the era, such as maybe Windows Media Center or something like that on there. I have got a Windows Media Center remote knocking around, and also the remote control receiver, and I've got some TV capture cards, and I've actually got the original Windows Media Center installation media and license code. So that would actually make a really great TV box, and with a bit of RGB in it as well. Something nice to put by the side of the TV, possibly? Well, we'll see. We'll see how good we can clean this up and get it to look. But let's go through quickly and tell you what is actually in the machine. And what I do, I'm going to fire this up just so you can see that it does, well, it does work. It's not great, but it does work. So, as were all PCs back then, any headphone users, you might want to press mute or turn the volume down. You have been warned. Fans from this era weren't great. Now I'll go into what fans are in there in a little bit when I can run through the specs. But yeah, there's some seriously high RPMs on there, which I may have to reach out to a few of my friends or contacts and see if there's anything we can do to this to try and make it as quiet as possible. And also, you possibly notice there's like a drone. Now that's not just me, that is actually the PC as well. The hard drive is resonating through the acrylic, even through the acrylic or rubber feet, into this desk. And if I just move the case slightly, the pitch changes completely. See, as it makes contact, the pitch changes. I'm not sure if you're picking it up on the camera. You may do, you may not. It definitely is noticeable here. So that is something else we need to look at as well, if this is going to be used as any sort of media sensor possibly, to try and reduce that resonance, either by removing the mechanical drive, which would be a bit of a shame because a mechanical drive is a bit retro and is in keeping with the age of this machine, but an SSD might look nicer. Potentially what I may do is take apart a old IDE drive and actually put a SATA drive inside of it, like an SSD inside of it, to try and disguise it. That might be a little bit over the top, but you never know. We do some crazy things when we're either bored or have a project on our hands. So I'm going to take the side of this off a minute and disconnect that one of the fans at least, because the fan on the back, the little, I think it's 80mm fan, is such a high RPM, and it's not good. It's driving me insane. So let's disconnect that straight away. Now actually this also was almost the start of thumb screws. Now they're not quite thumb screws, they're brass screws, but the effect is very similar. And there we go, that's a little bit better already. There's still a little bit of a pitch from the CPU fan, but you'll know why in a minute. So let's go through the specs of this machine. So you have to excuse the paper, but I've made some notes so I don't get it all completely wrong. So starting with the case is a Sunbeam AC-T in acrylic. Again, that may be wrong, I'm not entirely sure. Now that is a kind of roughly a 2004 case. The power supply, now the power supply doesn't have any markings on it whatsoever, but it does have some telltale signs. On the top there's two lugs which would attach to the top of a chassis, and it's got a 3006 on the side. And looking at it, everything that's in this screams as if it's a Packard Bell. I'm thinking probably a Packard Bell imedia 2470, maybe an iExtreme at a push. The CPU that's in there is actually motherboard wise, first of all, the motherboard is a MicroStar MS7301 Micro ATX version 1.1. Again, which was very common in a lot of Packard Bell machines around the sort of 2005-2006 era. We're going to restart the machine in a minute. We'll take a look in the BIOS and see if there's any telltale hints there. I know the BIOS revision date isn't going to give it all away, but it's probably a good place to start with, so we'll check that out there. The processor that's in there is the horrendous, horrible, heat generating monster that is the Pentium 4 HT, and this is a 3 GHz dual core chip. Yeah, less said about that the better. Ideally, I'm pretty sure somewhere I've got an E4400 of the Core 2 Duo range somewhere in this house, so if I have got it, that's going to be perfect. This is the LGA 775 board, and putting that in there is going to A, make it faster, B, reduce the heat, and C, hopefully reduce the RPMs of the fan. So if I can dig that out, then that's going to be a great upgrade for this little machine. Going down to the RAM. Now the RAM is only 2 gigs of RAM. Got two 1 gig sticks of Ananya PC2 4200U RAM. I'll put listings in the specs below to the exact model numbers and what have you, so you can check out for yourself and see what was in there. Now originally this machine would have had a DDR667 PC2 5300, so at some point it's had an upgrade of size but a downgrade of speed, so slightly slower RAM in there, which I think is 533. Again, it's not a massive deal at this kind of end of the market, although at its time it probably would have made a big difference. Now moving on down to the GPU. Now, the GPU is actually a much newer release product. It's a EVGA eGeForce 960 GT. Now, it's not the superclocked edition, unfortunately, or the superclocked edition. It's just the standard 512 PCIe 2.0. So 256-bit bus, 1625 megahertz shader, and memory clock of 1800 megahertz. Now the actual core itself, I believe, is 650 megahertz, and it's got 64 stream processors. So it's not going to be like a rocket ship or anything, but for the age of the kit on there, it should do quite well. and we may well benchmark it in some games at some point. We'll see how things go, but the card itself, actually, the fan's actually quite slow running on there and quite quiet, so that might be an ideal opportunity for the media center again, but we will see. Hard disk drive. Now the hard disk drive, I'm pretty sure, has been upgraded at some point. The hard drive is a Western Digital 3200 AAKS, which is a, I believe it's a 7,200 RPM drive. I think it's only 8 meg cache, and that's got a release date on the drive of 16th of the 2nd, 2011. So not the original drive, I would say, probably a replacement at some point or other, or maybe just put in there just to get the machine up and running. Maybe we'll find out. The DVD drive is the Lighton DH20A4P909C. So it's a 20A4P is the real model. The 09 is the kind of a firmware revision on those. 2 meg cache, and it writes to pretty much everything possible. So we've got DVD plus and minus, DVD RAM, CD, CDRW, etc., etc. Pretty much a generic drive in most cases. That one again has got a date on it of November 2007. So again, maybe a replacement or an upgrade of the iMedia machine. Be interesting to know. Moving on to the cooling, which you can probably hear droning away. The cooling, the CPU cooler, is a AVC, or Asia Vital Components A6345NC, which is basically a generic kind of OEM thing, probably the original one that was on there from Packard Bell. Very, very possible. I haven't been able to find anything out on the internet about that particular cooler, so it is a very OEM model. And the fan on the rear is a Cooler Master A802525RB-3BN, which is basically a 80mm blue RGB fan, but with a, quite rare at that time, a 3-pin fan header rather than the Molex connector. So at least we haven't got a Molex in there, although we have got one for the DVD drive. There's a shame. So I'm pretty sure this has come from around about 2004, 2005, and is most likely the insides of a Packard Bell imedia 2470, but it's running Windows 7 at the moment, and everything seems good. Everything's installed in the BIOS, in the device manager, everything's looking good. So I'm going to run a quick benchmark on it and see how bad it actually is. So this is the PC benchmark, or user benchmark, and let's run this and see what it's like. Okay, so that's the PC benchmark done. It didn't do particularly well, and we've got a red for the processor, red for the graphics, red for the boot drive, amber for the memory, amber for the OS version, but the PC status is a green. So at least we got one green, that's not too bad. So we've got 11% for gaming, 19% for desktop, and 12% for workstation. So it's a tree trunk apparently, which is probably not great. But saying that, I'm actually slightly impressed. I thought it was going to be a lot less than that, so that's pretty good. So it actually does come up now and actually has recognised the system, so I wasn't too far off. This is actually from a Packard Bell imedia MC2669, which I'll actually have to check it out and see what that actually looked like originally. It's the motherboard is actually the Packard Cuba MS7301, so it's the Cuba board. And memory wise, it's only got 1.5 gigabytes free of 2 gigs. Obviously we're going to be using some for, actually what are we using? We haven't got onboard graphics, so we shouldn't be using anything. Not too sure why that is. Oh, that's probably what's actually in use by Windows. So yeah, Windows 7 running. This is December the 6th, 2018, and this hasn't done too bad. And it actually says that this PC is performing above expectations and within the 70th percentile of all other PCs tested. So out of 100 PCs, 30 of them have performed better than this, 70 didn't. That's basically how it works. So I'm relatively impressed. That's not too bad. And so yeah, this the CPU actually is performing above average. The graphics card is performing above average. The hard disk drive, surprisingly, is actually way above average. The memory is kind of so kind of expected that because it's quite a low speed RAM. But yeah, generally it's not done too bad, so I'm moderately impressed. The fact it still works after all these years, this is at least a 10-year-old system, at least. The power supply we're not too sure on, but the rest of the components are pretty much dated, so you know that they're at least 10 years old. What kind of stuff have you got lying around at home which is 10 years old or more? Let me know in the comments section, or send me some pictures over on the Discord server. I'd be interested to see them. It's amazing what some people are still using. And as you can see, I've dug out my old Microsoft Internet keyboard just to fill in place with this whole deal. So, what do you think? I'm relatively impressed. A, that it still works. B, that it's still actually viable as a system. This could quite easily be used as a system for internet browsing, word processing, all the kind of usual PC stuff. Or alternatively, you can strip all of this out and put in some modern hardware, some modern components, and turn it into a real showpiece. So let me know in the comments, what do you think I should do with it? I'll take your comments on board, and we'll see where we go from there. So, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. This has been the rebranded Packard Bell imedia 2669, and we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.